Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent prayer for our servicemen and women, and also for all of those who have passed away in our community. Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Evans?
Here.
Mr. Gahn?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here. Please dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, agenda for the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to be held March 14, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3B, minutes of the Scranton-Lackawanna Health and Welfare Authority meeting held January 18, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed.
3C, agenda for the Lackawanna County Tax Collection Committee meeting held February 22, 2018.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Do any council members have announcements at this time? I have a couple. This Saturday, March 10th, is the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade. The parade will step off at 11:45 a.m. The route starts on Mulberry Street and Wyoming Avenue, moving towards Lackawanna Avenue, then turning onto Jefferson, Spruce, and a final turn onto North Washington Avenue. Please be mindful of road closures as well as numerous pedestrians if you need to travel downtown on Saturday. Colts buses will offer free rides on all routes on Parade Day to encourage people to use public transit on Saturdays. They participate in the day's festivities. Buses will run on a regular schedule Saturday. This Sunday, March 11th, begins daylight savings time. Please remember to turn your clocks ahead and to change the batteries in your smoke alarms. And finally, the permit parking on the 900 block of Olive Street. The public hearing will be held next Monday, March 12th at 5:15 p.m.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Our first speaker tonight is Joan Hodowanitz.
Joan Hodowanitz, Scranton resident and taxpayer. What is the status of the Arcata study?
I have no idea, but that is a good question, and if we could ask for, I don't know if Councilman Evans has anything, but it seems like we've been waiting an awful long time for that.
I usually get an update at the Pell meeting on Mondays, but there was no Pell meeting today, but I'll check with the BA. Seems to have a handle on where that is, so I'll check with him.
Well, hold on to your seats. I have some information for you.
Well, good.
At 4:30, I got an unanticipated phone call from Bernie McGurl. You know Bernie, from the Lackawanna River Conservation Association. He's one of the subcontractors for Arcadis in Philadelphia. He works with Tony Bell. He was actually trying to reach Marie Schumacher. She just arrived. See, your ears are burning. But you had called Bernie? He lost your phone number. So, in a pinch, he decided to call me just to let her know that he tried to return her phone call. And I did give him your phone number. So he'll try to get with you tomorrow. Nevertheless, I asked him, I said, well, what's going on with the stormwater study? And now, he's just talked to me offhand, but basically, his assessment, it's about 55 to 60% completed. He's hopeful that there might be a product maybe in the June, July timeframe. We did talk about it, and I'm not going to try to recount everything he said because I don't want to be, a third person hearsay account. But I strongly suggested to him that it would be very useful, if not appropriate, if he or somebody from Arcadis would come to City Hall, update the administration, and then have a public caucus with council. My issue and my concern is, we sold the sewer authority in December of 2016, without having our arms wrapped around what to do with stormwater, what will it cost, what will it mean to the taxpayer. We were hoping to get this study in late 2017 with the possibility of seeing how it would impact the budgetary process and future budgets. We missed that window. And now we're looking at the budget coming up for 2019, and I would really hate to see us miss that window. So he's going to call Tony Bell in Philly and see if they cannot call the BA and talk first to the administration so that there's no efforts at cross purposes, and recommend that they come in and update the administration and/or city council as to where we stand on this study. There are issues, okay? But realize that if this study keeps slipping, we may miss the window for the 2019 budget process. I don't think that's a good thing. Keep in mind that the city apparently has no plan B, what to do if the school district misses its March 28th deadline to balance its budget, and it seems they may be heading down that path. And then you have these pending lawsuits, some of which could upend the city's financial status and put a cloud over us getting out of distress status. So for what it's worth, I hope you do get a call in the near future, and if you can, please, please, please organize a public caucus so we can know what's coming down the road.
Well, I'll tell you, I will personally reach out to Bernie to talk to him.
Well, Bernie's one of the few public figures that I think has a lot of credibility.
Absolutely. I'm very
Okay,
encouraged by
so,
the fact that he's involved with this.
You know, what he says, and I don't think he's, you know, got a hidden agenda. I think he'll give you the truth as he sees it, and I think he knows the ground truth as well as anyone. So, but for what it's worth, you know, I'd be disappointed if we don't get a product out of this stormwater study until late summer, because I know you guys are going on recess in August. So, you know, we just keep pushing this thing back and back and back. Sooner or later, we're going to have to pay the piper. And, of course, I was in the caucus this afternoon. I understand that you don't want my services to transcribe public comments. No, I am not a certified court reporter, nor do I intend to become one. I still think it's, you know, penny wise and pound foolish. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee Morgan.
Good evening, Council. I don't know if this is the right place to even bring up the subject of credibility, but, and I really don't understand how this council could find or even determine credibility, to be quite honest, but I'd like to return a little bit to last week, and I had a couple of residents ask a question, and they're curious how Mr. Gahan could be a council member and never knew that this took effect, that there's no recording of comments from the public. And I'd like to give you an opportunity tonight to explain how you can be a sitting councilman and not be aware what your fellow councilmen are doing.
Because nobody brought it up at a public meeting, no one discussed it in a caucus that we had in the back, and I don't check the minutes, so I had no idea. For 4 years, it was being done a certain way, so, you know, maybe it was wrong of me to just assume that it would continue that way. And I was caught off guard because I literally did not know that that was a new procedure.
Okay. Well, Mr. Rogan, there seems, from what I read in the Scranton Times, to be no record in the minutes that there was any vote taken.
The Scranton Times is incorrect. I did discuss this with Jim Lockwood. We discussed this at reorganization, not a reorganization meeting, which was what was referred in that newspaper, but the 5 members of council discussed this change or possibly using another program, which was actually referenced in the next paragraph in that article prior to reorganization.
Do you have any control over YouTube? Do you personally, or does this city government have any control over YouTube at all?
Everyone does. Anyone could post to YouTube.
Can you force them to to continue functioning? Do you have the power to tell
course
YouTube
not.
that they can never shut themselves down and remove their information from the net?
Of course not.
Okay, so then your thing about telling residents that they can go to YouTube is a fallacy because you have no control over that.
No, they
And
can go to YouTube, and it's on there now. And
if
for some
YouTube
reason
disappeared-
Google got rid of
if
its
YouTube-
billion-dollar business, we would find another way
Well, but if
to
it
do it.
disappeared, all things with technology sooner or later disappear. Okay, so you have no power over that, none. And I assume none of the other council members do either. And when we're going to talk about $5,000 to transcribe a record of what the residents of this city feel and think about their government and the changes they want made, that's not worth preserving. And yet you've sold the sewer authority and have no plan for the wastewater. You're in court on a multitude of different levels over overtaxing your citizens. The city's infrastructure is a complete mess and rolling backwards, and you're worried about $5,000 and credibility and maintaining a record of what the residents of this city believe, and many of them are voters, the people that put you in office. And I think that when you look at the Constitution, I think that the residents have a right to come to their government and seek changes. And I don't, for the life of me, know how this council can ever go back to a record that doesn't exist and ask what the residents of this city want their government to do. It's not at your fingertips like it would be if it was transcribed. So really what I think it is a very shameless way, okay, to run a government that's supposed to be representative of the people who elected it. And as you continue to tax us and cause despair in this community, you have no concern of it. Not one bit. And you've already alienated one council member because he said he doesn't know anything about this. But you know, my other question is who brought this topic up? Who introduced this? What council member came forward and said, let's stop transcribing the meetings of residents' interaction between its government? What council member introduced that?
It was
I'm waiting.
It was actually proposed by former business administrator. There was some issues.
He's not a council member.
Correct.
Okay, so he had no standing there. What council member?
Council discussed doing this 2 years ago. 4 members.
That's not answering my question. My question is very simple.
Mr. Morgan, your time's up.
No, I don't think so.
Well, the bell rang, so.
There's not 2 bells anymore?
The first bell is the 5.
Okay, well, do me a favor. That's fine. I'll walk away from the podium
No,
today.
I will answer your question.
No, because I have follow-up. Thank you.
Okay, then I won't answer
But you can answer it. You can answer that, but I have follow-up.
The answer was, it was brought up it's about 2 years ago, and it wasn't unanimous. The council president at the time decided that if it wasn't unanimous, we weren't going to move forward with it. It was discussed again this year, and at that point in time, the majority of members felt it was appropriate. That's how the decision was made. Mr. Ellman, Mr. Morgan, your time's up.
Hello, council. God, I haven't gotten over that tongue lashing from Fay last week. I'm glad she didn't aim it right at me. I have to agree with Mr. Bolus, though. I don't think that was the place to push his agenda and so forth. I won't get into it. You probably won't believe this, but there are some people out there that think I am an arrogant SOB. Yeah. What can I say? Until they pay my bills, I could care less. But to me, all these agendas people have are ruining the events they go to. I didn't watch last night. I could care less about that crash down there in Hollywood. I was very fortunate when I was out there, there was still a true Hollywood and people with talent living there and out publicly. Anyway, to get back to the city. As you guys know, I just love this city. Today I was at Price Right talking to a couple people. And this one lady brought up what was in the paper this morning about the arts. That lady, was it Miss McGuire that wrote that was in the article? She said something about needing these little plastic buildings and all at the bus stops. I've had 2 or 3 people mention that over the years. I think that would be a good investment for them. I don't ride a bus for no particular reason. I'm not mad at them or nothing. I used to ride it in Atlanta because of the parking problem when I visited. They sell newspapers on the bus. You can really get comfortable. Anyway. Last week, y'all were mentioning Mr. Durkin. To me, he's just an enemy of the taxpayers of this city because all he knows about is like 1% of downtown. He's forgotten about the 99% of the people that are paying all these taxes that we have to subsidize downtown with. I just don't understand why the same people's names from downtown are in the paper year after year for not paying their taxes at all these buildings. It's a fortune out. Just like I keep complaining about 21 people names were in the paper last year on Cedar Avenue. Why are the same people? Nobody does nothing. Tallarico has 15 houses in there. He owes 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. Why don't they condemn him to make him quit getting his rents? Maybe he'd pay his taxes. You know, I've been watching wrestling. Don't laugh. I've been watching wrestling for 25 years. And it takes something for me to miss it. Now that you've moved this to Monday nights, I am missing my wrestling to be down here. And not just to speak, to listen to these people out here. My wrestling means a lot to me, but this city and the good people in it mean a whole lot more. The people of this city they're not getting a fair deal. You know, it's like I've said dozens of times. There's so many people out there that are just next to suffering and going to Sister Adrian's for food and all. I talk to them here and there and everywhere. The city is not in good shape. The taxes have just gotten completely out of control, and the school board's out of control. I don't know what to do.
Thank you, Mr. Holman.
Fortunately, like Marie said at the school board meeting last week, she's not affected that much. But there is so much heartbreak out there. Half the city must be seniors and people not paying, having children in school anymore. And look at $1,000 of my taxes goes for the school every year. Something needs to be done about it.
Thank you, Mr. Ullman. I'll be talking about the
You
school
like
taxes under
tacos?
motions. What was that?
You like tacos?
Of course.
You know where the old log cabin is on way out Main Street?
I do.
I have nothing to do with this place. They got Tuesday tacos now. My son buys a bunch of them, and They are delicious for $1 a piece. I mean,
Well, thank you, Mr. Ullman.
Taco Tuesday, remember that.
I'll remember that. Neil Weinberg?
Good evening, council members. Neil Weinberg, 716 Clay Avenue, right in back of Moses Taylor Hospital. I'm here because I'm upset with the construction. I'm upset with the condition of the roads in the hill section. Approximately 1 year, some contractor is putting in gas lines. I'm not sure what exactly is going on, but I'm here to complain about the horrific condition of the streets in the hill section, not the potholes, because that's something that happens every winter, but I don't understand why why they're not working on one block and do everything that has to be done on one block, whether it's putting in the mains, hooking up to houses, but the condition of the roads are very bad. I want to know, is there somebody from the city who is responsible for watching what they're doing? I don't know if there's anybody from the city who's watching what they're doing. During the cold spell, when there was a lot of water breaks, and the water company was repairing broken water mains, and they would fill in the hole, and the holes have sunken, and I can't tell you how many intersections on the corner of Vine and Clay, and on Ash between Clay and Quincy, these horrific holes in the ground because the earth has settled into the holes. And is there anything that could be done to explain to me about these contractors putting in the gas lines, why they're not repairing the roads as they go along?
We actually just had a meeting a few weeks back. The same problem that's in the hill is actually going on in South Side as well. And last winter, unfortunately, it was in my neighborhood in West Side, so it's not specific to the hill currently. But we are trying to. The city did redo their pave cut ordinance. There is a person in charge of pave cuts in supervising. That doesn't mean they could go out and do the work. So we are looking at trying to hold the utilities more accountable, because it is unacceptable for them to leave projects open through the entire winter. Now, obviously, when work is done towards the end of the year and the blacktop plants are closed, there's no way to physically pave those roads, but they have to do a better job of planning. So their projects wrap up in the fall, they're done, and then in the spring they could start again on another project. But it's something that all 5 of us have actively been working on, and we're very aware of it, because I wish I could say it was just a problem in your neighborhood, but it's a problem in the whole city. And we have to do a better job of getting the utilities to hold them responsible. Now, at the end of the project, they pave curb to curb and they do a good job, but sometimes it's a year in the meantime where these roads are sitting in these conditions. So you're not the first person that's brought this up to us, and it is on all of our minds. So rest assured, we are all working on trying to do something to hold these utility companies responsible.
So I would hope that when the weather warms, the gas and water company are going to come back and pave over the holes which are currently have dirt in them, to bring them level with the rest of the street, because
yeah, that will, by city code, those roads they will be milled and they'll be paved curb to curb. So when they're done, they will be done, nicely. But unfortunately, in the meantime, until we get some warmer weather and the blacktop plants open, unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit longer.
So the replacement of gas lines, I assume, is going to work their way down the hill. They're not on Clay Avenue, but I assume that they're going to eventually come down to Clay Avenue and go further down?
We don't, and that's another part of the problem, that we don't know exactly where their maps are now. Obviously, if there's an emergency, that's a different scenario, but their preventative maintenance that's planned out, And that's where the city, for a long time, has not done a great job coordinating efforts. We've done a better job. A lot of streets were actually taken off the city's pave list last year that were ripped up by utility contractors to not duplicate efforts. But it is a major problem that, we all have to put our heads together for a solution on that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, excuse me, Mrs. Reed, is there any way we can get in touch with Mr. Zori and just with the weather starting to break, get maybe an updated utility schedule for them? And then we can see if they have the hill section or any streets up that way and in Southside that are going to be completed to finish. Because there's just way too many, the issue is just, it goes on no matter what part of the city you're in, and I agree. And Mr. Weinberg, if you want to stick around to after the meeting, I can get your number, we can exchange phone numbers, and then when I hear back from Mr. Zori, I can get back to you with some dates on when the utility company is putting this on the books to get completed, and if there's anything else, going down into Clay and then beyond. Thank you.
Marie Schumacher. I would like to start this evening with a suggestion that you formally invite the mayor of this city to give the State of the City address in this council as soon as it has been prepared. Next, agenda item 5E. I don't believe it is sufficiently definitive on reporting back to the council. Reporting regularly could be 1 year, could be 6 months. I think it needs to be specified and no less often than quarterly. Thanks to the Sunshine Act, if they report to full council, the public will also find out what's going on. But I think that should be definitive. And also, why just the school district? What about the SAPA members? That's part of SAPA. I think you got to think a little bit bigger. Regarding the change in the meeting, in the minutes, I'm now wondering whether or not you broke the Sunshine Act, but if 4 of you acted together outside of the public, it would seem to me that you have broken the Sunshine Act.
Council met to discuss personnel issues regarding our clerk and our solicitor for reorganization.
Oh, that's how you get around it. Interesting.
No, that's what we met about.
Note that. I will transcribe that one tomorrow for future reference. Anyway, according to your interpretation, I don't know. The thing that I do know is that the so-called savings of $5,000 could easily be covered with the monthly payments that you all will be receiving for the, was it six Mondays that you will not be meeting? So I think that something needs to be done, because I stick to my version for the reason on why you have eliminated the transcription of the public comment portion of these meetings. To me, it's an accountability issue. Apparently, you want no record of what you respond to any constituent. I guess maybe what Mr. Wexler referred to as a gotcha, when you ask a question on an item that's in the agenda, that's on the agenda, especially now that we have the backup, or before when we had to come down and do it in the office, and we ask a question and you answer it and you don't like it and we follow up, that's supposed to be a gotcha. But I assume that council members read the backup before you come here. Now, just as an example, during the primary, Mr. Rogan, Faye Franis asked you because of something you had on your campaign materials that you voted against the trash fee being increased to $300. But because Faye asked that, and that was documented, and went back, and because of the minutes, you were able to admit that you in fact had voted. And
actually, I corrected myself about. She referenced the budget year.
It's my time. It's my 5 minutes.
We'll hold your
Thank
time.
you.
You can have
do
an
that
extra
on
30
fifth
seconds.
Order.
I addressed that later in that meeting, but this meeting today,
It's okay.
it's not okay.
my time. It's my time.
So, Mr. Mark, when you ask a question, do you want an answer or do you not want an answer? Let's establish this now.
I didn't ask a question. I didn't ask a question, I made a statement.
Okay, and I'm replying to your
And,
statement.
well, you can reply in fifth order, that's your time.
Okay, well then when your 5 minutes is
I
up, it's up.
still-
Continue.
I will continue. I would just challenge any member of this council who's in favor of this change in the minutes to find any random dialogue between a councilman using Facebook and a member of the public, that would be me, using a word search of a digital transcription of the minutes. You just don't want us to be able to go back easily and hold you to what you tell us when we're standing at this podium. And now, a few more follow-ups before I get back to the exit plan. Mr. Donahue, what did you find out on the United Neighborhood Center status on there?
I actually put those requests in this afternoon, and I didn't get anything back yet.
Oh, that's timely. Mr. Evans, what about your contact that you were going to make with Mr. Blake on 401Ks? What did you find out from Mr. Blake?
I'm sorry to get to that, but I will get to that next week. I know they got our letter. They received our request.
Amazing.
Time is up, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Norma Jeffries, and I'm a Scranton resident. And my first thing is the date of the meetings. You know, it's very inconvenient for me now for Mondays because I do go to Bible study every other Monday, so I can only come on the night that I don't have Bible study. So as I sat here tonight, I wasn't prepared to hear the things that I heard. And the gentleman here that was talking about the roads, as you know, I was here a few weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago, about the roads in the hill section. And you had told me that you were going to, or someone was going to put the notices in public record and that they would be in the paper as to when the roads were going to be repaired or when we were going to be inconvenienced by the road work. As far as I know, I don't get the paper every day, I only get it Saturday and Sunday. But as far as I know, I don't know if it's public record, if it's been noted in the public record, the roads that are going to be worked on in the hill section. So, you know, I can empathize with this gentleman here because I go up Clay and Vine every day, and that road there is absolutely terrible. It was so bad that they did come and fix it, but it's sinking again. So I don't know what can be done. I know that, what's the slogan in New York? Build we but must for a better New York. Maybe it's the same thing with these streets will one day be in good shape that we can drive without bending the rims of our cars. It's not bad during the day because I can see the holes, but at night you cannot see those holes, and you're taking your vehicle in your own hands because you've got to pay for those fixings yourself. So I don't know whatever happened to the public record that was supposed to appear in the paper, but I have not seen it. And the third thing that I was thinking about, because I was going to say something on one of my nights that I could be here, but I was going to go back, and I do look at the things on YouTube to see what I had missed at the meetings, and it's quite interesting when you look at them. And I don't know all the information that's going on or what went on the weeks that I wasn't here about the YouTube or the minutes or whatever's going on, but I'd sure like to know, is it that I'm not going to be able to go to YouTube anymore and read those?
YouTube is here to stay.
No, I mean, our council meeting's going to be on YouTube.
Council meetings are here to stay on YouTube.
Okay. Well,
and live on ECTV.
Oh, I don't get that. I have
Okay.
TV. They don't carry it.
So stick to YouTube then.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. But in any case, you know, those were the things that I noticed as I sat there, and I thought, wow, it's just not me that's really being, and my sisters and family, we complain about the roads all the time, but there's a lot of people out there in the hill section. I'm on Wheeler Avenue, and I go down to, where do I work? Vine and Jefferson. You know, so each morning, you know, I decide which kind of way am I going to go. And this morning I got stuck on Olive Street coming home, and I thought, oh, I hate this road. And if anyone's been on Olive Street, it's cobblestone, and it's very slippery. I hate it. but I got stuck going down that road today because of the detours. So, I just empathize with this gentleman here, and I just hope that something eventually can be done. And as you know, if it's done, and when it's done, I will be back to say thank you to who's ever out there in the world, okay?
Thank you very much. And we promise you, the YouTube videos are here to stay.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Fifth order, 5A motions.
Mr. Perry, do you have any motions or comments?
Yeah, two quick things. I just want to say thank you to DPW. They got that light fixed at 17th and Division Street. It actually went up that Monday morning before we even had our meeting, so thank you for that. That's taken care of. I know that was out for a while with pole being down. That got fixed. The light went on top, so we're good in that area. And really, the only thing else I wanted to address was with the parade this weekend. I want everybody to get out there, have a good time, stay safe, which is one of the most important things. Be mindful when you're driving. There's going to be a lot of people, a lot of children out. Like Mr. Rogan said, Colts is having free bus rides. There's Lyft, there's Uber, there's taxis. There's no reason to drink and drive. Stay safe, watch out for each other, and don't just visit the downtown. I know downtown's the hub of the parade day, but there's just so many other local businesses out there that celebrate, and a lot of pockets in the community that have a great time. So just get out there, enjoy yourself, show your Irish pride, and if you're not, you can pretend you are for the day, and enjoy yourself. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Mr. Donahue, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, I just have a couple of comments. I got a couple of complaints last week, actually the week before, about the handicap sign that was out in front of City Hall. That it was defaced with some sort of graffiti. So we reached out to DPW and they took that down to clean that, and that will be put up as soon as possible. I also got some complaints about the traffic light on Pittston and Birch that was blinking for 5 or 6 days. And we did reach out to PennDOT, and they were reaching out to the signal contractor, because they had just put the new mast arms in. And from what I've seen, that issue was fixed. I haven't seen them blinking in the last couple of days. And also there was a sign on the top of River Street where River and Meadow meet. There's a no right turn on that where you really can't take a right turn. So, but some of our English as a second language people are taking it more literally, that they couldn't turn right from River Street onto 81 South. So we reached out to PennDOT and they were going to look into that too. And also again, I asked for the permits for the Birch Street project. Mrs. Reed, would you be able to, that's been about 3 weeks or so since, and I haven't gotten them, so would you be able to reach out to Mr. Herzeri again to request those? And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to talk about the decision to stop the verbatim transcription of public comment beginning with the first meeting of January of this year. First of all, in retrospect, yes, it could have been handled slightly better, and maybe we could have announced it at our first meeting in January. And yes, I would agree that we should be putting more information, like the subject of the speaker's comments, and maybe some additional information in the minutes, in addition to just the name of the speaker. And I think we will work towards that. But you can be assured there was never an intent to deceive anyone from the City Council. From my perspective, based on the fact that there's a video record on YouTube, there's a DVD in the library. To be honest with you, I don't know why there was even a problem last week. Clearly, technology has made the need for transcription obsolete. Some of the comments of some of the speakers last week, in my opinion, were frankly over the top. In a world that could always use a little more civil discourse, civility was clearly missing from that meeting. Since I've been on City Council, we have strived to be efficient and cost-effective in our operations. Excuse me. Granicus is one example. The idea sessions are another. Tonight's resolution for a shared services committee with the school board is another. And yes, reducing meeting costs could be viewed as another example. In studying what other city councils do across the state, Scranton City Council is the outlier with this issue, and with other meeting benchmarks as well. Allentown, Altoona, Bethlehem, Easton, Erie, Harrisburg, Hazleton, Lancaster, Reading, Wilkes-Barre, and York. Now, one municipality that was studied transcribes their meetings. And not only just the public part of it, they do not transcribe any part of their meetings. Tens of thousands of dollars have been spent, probably more approaching well over $100,000 over the years transcribing meetings. Was this necessary and needed once the videotaping of meetings began? What we are doing is not necessarily good government. It is wasteful government. Additionally, in the course of studying other comparable cities and how the city councils operate, other things came out. For example, their regular council meeting schedules. Allentown meets twice a month. Altoona meets once a month. Bethlehem meets twice a month. Easton meets twice a month. Erie meets twice a month on the first Wednesday at 9 a.m. and the third Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Harrisburg meets twice a month for a regular council meeting, but has 2 work sessions included with their meeting schedule. Hazleton meets twice a month for 9 months and once a month for 3 months. Lancaster meets twice a month. Wilkes-Barre meets twice a month, but also has 2 work sessions in their schedule. York meets twice a month as well. So you can see Scranton again is the outlier. Regular council meetings are twice a month or less in every city reviewed. Only 2 city councils meet as much as Scranton does, yet they still only have 2 regular council meetings and are both supplemented with the addition of 2 work sessions. Personally, I feel the Harrisburg model and the Wilkes-Barre model tend to lend themselves to better government and a better dialogue among council members. By having 2 work sessions, they're able to more fully discuss agenda items together ahead of the regular council meetings. They can more fully discuss other pressing city issues together, and it also allows them to bring in special guests, et cetera, on a more regular basis. This is a meeting model that I feel can make for more efficient meetings and a more effective government. Over the next month or so, I plan on making a trip to Wilkes-Barre to sit in on a work session held by their city council to see firsthand if the process that they use and if it could be beneficial. At that time, I'll report back to my colleagues to more fully discuss this issue. Now, is it time for such a change? Maybe, maybe not. But I will say this, it should always be time to make time for good government. So that's all I have tonight on that issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Gahn, do you have any motions or comments?
Yes, just on the transcription issue, first of all, I think to say that, maybe we could have done it better, we could have definitely done it better. I think it was completely mishandled. As I said earlier in response to Mr. Morgan, I had no clue that we were just ending transcription of public comment. And the fact that the city of Scranton is an outlier to other cities, maybe that's a good thing. When I look at some of the issues that have gone on in this city over the last 4 years, whether it's the sewer authority, backdoor meetings with other officials, closed-door meetings, what's the harm in transcribing public comment? Or at the very least, if, the majority of my colleagues want to end transcribing public comment, at least have a summary of what the citizens spoke about, as I think almost all of the other cities do. And I don't think we should work towards that. I think it should have been done yesterday, if that's what my colleagues want to do. But no, I don't think that maybe we could have done it a better way. I think it was mishandled. It was never discussed publicly. It was just done with the click of a finger. So I had no clue that that was being done, and I really don't agree with it. Second thing, on the Arcadis study, I have said all along that the administration needs to come to a public caucus, give us an update, and when the study is complete, because we have been told time and time again it was going to be done, I was told last November or October and November. Now it's the first quarter, now it's the summer. Well, what's the holdup here? I know that we're having trouble getting a meeting with the Scranton Sewer Authority. But we do need a public meeting on that because it is a very important topic, and it is going to continue to be a hot topic in the city. I did receive, again, and this is the 3rd or 4th time, about a traffic issue with trucks driving from the Stauffer Industrial Park on Main Avenue, turning up Orem Street, and then turning onto West Gibson Street and getting stuck. So we did ask the city engineer months ago to address this issue. The The gentleman that is having some problems with this, who lives on West Gibson Street, sent me pictures again the other day that this is actually an issue. So I'm going to get together with Mrs. Reed after the meeting, and we'll get in contact with PennDOT, because it's my belief that there has to be more signage, and I don't think we can ignore that any longer. Also received some issues, a complaint about Birch Street and South Washington Avenue. Residents wanted to know if we could put a street light up there, or not a street light, a traffic signal. We did get a response from the city engineer that we'd have to find the funding for that first. It could cost somewhere in the $250,000 range, and we would first have to have a study completed. So update the residents on that as information becomes available. Also, if we could reach out, Mrs. Reed, to Director Gallagher again about the 1600 block of Church Avenue. Residents are still complaining about flooding there. I did send him pictures, but I haven't heard back yet. As far as I know, we didn't receive anything from the letter I sent February 6th regarding information on the Civil Service Commission. So if we could ask them if they are going to respond to my request, or if they're just going to simply ignore it, I'd like to know in case I have to do a right-to-know request. I did, before the meeting tonight, I had the pleasure of meeting with residents of the Greenridge Apartments down on Dixon Avenue. I've mentioned here before about some of the issues that they were having with the management company, Clover Management. I met with, there was about 30 or 40 residents there. The room was packed. And Jason Kavulich, who is the executive director of the Area Agency on Aging, and Nancy Barace, who is their solicitor who specializes in elder law, was there. And I really appreciated them answering questions. I continue to be extremely concerned about what is occurring down there with these residents. There were a number of people who actually lived there, and then there was a lot of people there who no longer live there because they were forced out one way or another. So what happened at the meeting is Attorney Barace and Director Kavulich are going to reach out to the Attorney General this Friday. And we'll go from there, and we'll see what happens. But I just want to, for those senior citizens in the audience tonight and those who are watching at home, there are a lot of great programs through the Area Agency on Aging. So you can get legal representation at a very low cost, and there are other services. So I think one of the things that came out of this meeting was you don't have to be afraid. There are people who will listen to you, and I think that was really a big part of the meeting, that people just felt that they weren't being listened to. So there are people that can help you, and I think we're on the right path there. And that's all I have this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A couple items, and then came up from the meeting, then two larger items. 2 points, actually 3 points I want to make first. First is any speaker that brings up something that's incorrect or only partially true about my record or something I said is going to be corrected. Whether it's on their time or whether it's on my time, it's going to be corrected. If a speaker would like an additional 30 seconds because a council member was engaging with them, that's a courtesy that always should be given to any speaker. Secondly, this is the last time I'm going to address this item regarding the meetings on Monday. The council meetings are set on a date that works best for the 5 members of council. I know that other members of the community have other engagements and other items going on, but they are set around the 5 council member schedules. Since the time I've been on council, I've now met on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, and Thursday nights. The only night that we have not met was Friday. So council meetings have changed with the schedule of council members. And that is the last time that item will be addressed. Regarding the minutes, and again, this is the last time I'm going to address this item as well. Councilman Evans hit the nail on the head. I did apologize to my colleagues. I should have announced it at the first meeting, and I think I said that last week, that it should have been announced publicly about the change. That was an error on my end. Sometimes, as council people, we're so involved in the things that we're doing. We know what we know, but we don't think to relay it sometimes. So that was an error on my part. But anyone that suggests the intent is anything other than to save money and prevent duplication of an item that really is, as Councilman Evans mentioned, extremely outdated, is wrong. That is the reason why it was done. And I know another resident brought up that they watch the meetings on YouTube. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. That format of seeing in live video or taped correspondence of the meeting is much more powerful than reading the words. So much can be lost in tone and inflection and what's actually meant in the words. When you hear it, you hear it. And if you want to do a gotcha or go back and bring a YouTube recording of something we said, you could still do that as well. That information will continue to be out there. And if for some reason there was a problem with ECTV or something happened, we would work to continue to make sure meetings are available for the public. So that is the last time I will address that item as well. On to some matters of business. There's two items that really could help the city of Scranton that unfortunately, in most cases, the 5 members up here don't have much control of. One is school property taxes, and the other is reassessment. On the issue of reassessment, I do have a little bit of good news, and I did forget to mention this in the caucus, but when meeting with the mayor this morning, he did get a reply back from the county from a letter that was sent quite a while ago asking regarding the reassessment. So a meeting is going to be scheduled with members of the administration, myself, and I was going to invite our finance chair as well to be part of that meeting to try to convince the commissioners to pursue a reassessment. If that does not happen, I have been on the record of supporting suing the county to force their hand regarding reassessment. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but if it does, it's something that I would certainly support. So that's the first issue. The second one is school taxes, specifically school property taxes. And the reason I bring this up is there was an article in the Sunday Times, it was also in a number of the regional papers, Citizens Voice, same article, legislation to introduce bill to replace school property tax system. Over the last number of years, I have spoken at length about Senate Bill 76, formerly House Bill 1776, Property Tax Relief Act. And as many of you know, this bill would eliminate your property tax bill entirely. There are some people that think that's a great idea. I'm one of them. Because if you look at your tax bills, which we've all just recently received, your school taxes is by far the biggest portion of your taxes. So in this article, people who support it, people who oppose it, go through and discuss their points, but I do have to take issue with something that was said by our senator. Senator Blake says that it's disingenuous for supporters of the bill to talk about it in this way and say that they're touting it. What really upset me about reading this comment is a number of years ago when council was pushing Senator Blake to support Senate Bill 76, he was telling residents, his staff was telling residents that called up his office that he was going to vote yes in support of Senate Bill 76. That vote was a tie vote in the state Senate. Passed the state House on a bipartisan vote. Democrats and Republicans were for it. In the Senate, it was a 50-50 split, and Senator Blake voted no. And if he truly believed that this wasn't the best thing to do, that's his choice to believe that. But to tell residents he was going to vote one way and then go in there and vote another, and now say that it's disingenuous that the proponents of the bill are framing it in one way, to me is ludicrous. So I would hope that Senator Blake would continue to look into this issue and maybe change his mind for the third time and go back to supporting the bill, because it really would help our city, and particularly the senior citizens in our city, who are paying for enormous tax increases over at the school district. On the school district, I'm glad to see we'll have legislation regarding some shared services. Hopefully that could save the school district some money. But how they're funded is still a state issue, and it's a major issue. And unless our senator gets his act together and starts working on some property tax relief, those tax bills are just going to continue to go up. That is all for now. Thank you.
I just have one thing.
Sure.
Just because I forgot to mention it earlier, regarding the public transcription, just so I'm clear, are we going to direct the stenographer to include a summary of what the speakers talk about? Councilman Evans said we're going to work towards that, but I mean, when,
that would
next week or?
Yeah, that's something we could discuss in caucus more. I don't think it would be on our stenographer to do that. I think it would more likely be on our clerk, our assistant city clerk. But that's something that, as we discussed in the caucus, we will put a brief summation. For instance, speaker spoke about this issue. That's definitely something that we could certainly put in to be in line with all those towns that Councilman Evans mentioned.
And the reason I bring that up, just as I'm sitting here, thinking about this whole controversy here, I guess it has turned into, my great-grandfather, Ed Nolan, was the president of the Southside Surface Protective Association. So he fought against, the mine companies and the mine owners and the holes that were opening up on Pittston Avenue. And my grandmother always told me, my brother, and my sister about how he would come down to the council meetings. And so I was very interested to see if there was a public record of that. And we did look back in the 1940s, and he did get up at the podium and he spoke, and there was a record of that. So I do think there is an importance to that, even if there's video on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. It is a good historical document to have. Putting aside the fact you might not agree with what everybody says, and maybe it doesn't make sense or it's totally off topic, but there is a historical background to that. So
I couldn't agree more. When our grandchildren want to watch the meetings of us, they can not only read it, but they'll be able to see it as well.
Well, not everybody has YouTube. Thank you.
5B for introduction, an ordinance amending file of the council number 95, 2015, an ordinance entitled amending file of the council number 79 of 2015, an ordinance amending file of the council number 145 of 2007 entitled an ordinance renaming the emergency and municipal services tax to local service tax, and by imposing a withholding of $52 for the calendar year 2015, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter by increasing the local services tax withholding from $52 to $156 for the calendar year 2015, and providing for an exemption from taxation for any person whose total earned income and net profits from all sources within the municipality is less than $15,600 for the calendar year 2015 under and pursuant to the Local Tax Enabling Act, Act 511 of 1965, PL 1257, 53, PS Section 6924.101 et seq., and the Municipalities Recovery Act, Act 47 of 1987, PL 246, 53, PS Section 11701.101 et seq., and their respective amendments effective retroactive to January 1, 2018. This tax is expected to generate approximately $4,810,000 in revenue in calendar year 2018 by enabling the City of Scranton to continue to levy the local services tax at the fiscal year 2017 rate for fiscal year 2018 for a total maximum local services rate of $156 for the fiscal year 2018, effective retroactive to January 1, 2018, and providing for an exemption from taxation for any person whose total earned income and net profits from all sources within the municipality is less than $15,600 for the calendar year 2018.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5C for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a sidewalk easement substantially in the form attached hereto as Exhibit A by and between PPL Electric Utilities Corporation and the City of Scranton for the STR 3B-3 structure across from the Neil Armstrong School identified as the easement area on the plan and meets and bounds description attached hereto as Exhibit B.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5D for introduction of resolution authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into a memorandum of understanding by and between the city of Scranton and the Scranton School District, setting forth the terms and conditions regarding the obligations of the school district to the city and the disbursement and use of educational and governmental capital grant funds.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5D be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
5E for introduction of resolution authorizing the formation of a shared services task force in cooperation with the Scranton School District to explore shared services, costs, and expenses.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5E be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question?
On the question, I'd like to just make a friendly amendment to change for where it reads task force for it to read committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and the amendment passes.
And then on the question, you know, the concept of shared services has the potential to not only save tax dollars through economies of scale, but to improve both the efficiencies of the school district and the city. Instead of duplicating parallel services, we should really be joining forces, and it's my belief that this should have been done a long time ago, but I'm very hopeful that this will be the first step towards not only the city and the school district working together, but the city and the county and the school district and all municipalities, boroughs, and townships that surround us. I think that there will be resistance because of a common mentality, and I've mentioned this before, a mentality from both the school district and the city that this is the way we've done things for the last 100 years, so we need to continue to do it this way. I think that, you know, when we're forming this committee and when we report back to council and when we're looking at ways to share services, we need to rise above these fears and everybody who has their little fiefdoms in the city and in the school district, these old ways of thinking, this old mentality, and we need to do what's best for the taxpayers in our community. And I read a very interesting quote from an article from Governing Magazine, and it was about shared services, and it said, when common sense does battle with common fears and practices, good new ideas will be crushed in the conflict. So I think that we need to make sure that we do not let good ideas get crushed in the conflict. We need to work together with the school district because it benefits both of us and it benefits the taxpayers. Thank you.
Anyone else on the question?
Yeah, on the question, I will comment on one phrase that Councilman Gahn made, which is absolutely true. This is the way it's always been done. That is a death knell to efficient government. Over and over and over again, that is what stymies improvement and efficiencies in government. Sort of like transcribing minutes, things like that. You know, we've always been done that way.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's all I have on that comment.
Anyone else?
I just want to add too, when we're looking at, now we're going to meet and report back to council, the full body, but when we're looking at different ways, I mean, right off the top of my head, and I think this has already been discussed, where we can share services, purchasing, our IT departments, legal services, things of that nature. And really, when you look at other communities, not only across Pennsylvania, but across the country, they've been doing this for decades now. So I think we're behind the times on, you know, tearing down these barriers between whether it be the county and the school district and the city and other boroughs and municipalities, tearing down the barriers to be able to work with them and share services, because we need to do this for what's best for all of the taxpayers in our community. Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title. File of the Council Number 5, 2018, an ordinance creating and establishing special city account number is noted entitled Sorrente Emergency Center for the receipt and distribution of grant funds from the Pennsylvania Governor's Office Law Enforcement Activities Appropriations Grant Funding in order to provide funding to convert the Sorrento Memorial Army Reserve Center into an emergency services center.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, filed with Council Number 6, 2018, an ordinance establishing permit parking on the even side of the 900 block of Olive Street from 912 Olive Street East to Quincy Avenue, and on the odd side from 915 Olive Street East to Quincy Avenue.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
6C, reading by title, filed with Council Number 7, 2018, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to disperse $6,000 from the UDAG repayment account into which Urban Development Action Grants repayments are deposited. This will cover the City of Scranton's share of costs for the United Neighborhood Centers of Northeastern Pennsylvania to administer the continuum of care for Lackawanna County during the period July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018.
You've heard reading by title of item 6C. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6C pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, file of the Council Number 3, 2018, establishing permit parking on the easterly side only of the 300 block of Taylor Avenue from 316 to 330 Taylor Avenue.
What is the recommendation for the chair for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, file of the Council Number 4, 2018, amending file of the Council Number 17, 1994, entitled, an ordinance as amended authorizing the governing body of the City of Scranton to enact a waste disposal and collection fee for the purpose of raising revenue to cover the waste disposal and collection costs incurred by the City of Scranton for the for the disposal of refuse by imposing a waste disposal and collection fee of $300 for calendar year 2018, and the same shall remain in full force and effect annually thereafter.
What is the recommendation for the chair for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call on the question?
Yes, on the question, would just like to note that I'm going to reluctantly vote for this item, and that is only because it's the fiscally responsible thing to do. The 2018 budget, which this revenue is dependent on, I didn't get a chance to weigh in on, but I will say that I will not vote for this in its current form moving forward next year. Thank you.
Anyone else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, Resolution Number 15, 2018, authorizing the Director of the Department of Public Works of the City of Scranton to sign and submit the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation application for traffic signal approval for traffic signal permit number 6358 to upgrade existing traffic signal at Greenwich Street and Sanderson Avenue.
What is the recommendation for the chair for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Community Development for adoption, Resolution Number 16, 2018, ratifying and approving of the execution and submission of the grant application by the City of Scranton on behalf of the United Neighborhood Centers, United Neighborhood Community Development Corporation, to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, acting through the Commonwealth Financing Authority, for a local share account grant pursuant to the PA Racehorse Development and Gaming Act in the amount of $120,000 for the project to be known as South Scranton Women's Business Incubator Project, located at 526-530 Cedar Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, and authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials of the city of Scranton to accept the grant if successful and execute and enter into a local share account grant contract and commitment letter with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to accept and utilize the grant in the amount of $120,000 awarded by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania for such project.
What is the recommendation for the chair for the Committee on Community Development?
As chairperson for the Committee on Community Development, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question? Roll call, please.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Donahue?
Yes.
Mr. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted. If there's no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned.